Hi! During the year 2020, after the murder of George Floyd, you probably saw in the media that there were protests in the United States, in which an organization with the name Black Lives Matter played a very important role. The news about these events was often brought in a manner that suggested that there was truly some enormous problem in the United States regarding police violence against Black Americans. This video will explain the reality of the situation and show you why these types of news reports are very one-sided and propagandistic. As an example, I will take the reporting about all of these events from the NOS, the Dutch tax-funded state media outlet, which is the primary source of news in the Netherlands. This organization is responsible for making sure that the Dutch are well informed about what's going on in the world today, so that based on being informed they can determine how to act in this world, what to vote, etc. According to their own mission statement, they are engaging in reporting that is diligent, reliable, independent, pluriform and objective. And because they are an organization that is funded with tax money, they are obligated by the Dutch media law to the highest quality standards within journalism. Now, the highest journalistic standards in the Netherlands are based on 3 journalistic codes that Dutch journalists should act in accordance with, according to the Dutch Association of Journalism, the Code of Bordeaux, the Guideline of the Council of Journalism, and the Code for Journalism. And each of these 3 journalistic codes obligate journalists to engage in honest, impartial, objective and fair journalism. Of course, throughout the entire BLM period in the United States during the year 2020, the Dutch state media has created a large amount of articles about this topic. Now, given the fact that the Dutch state media is obligated by law to engage in high quality journalism, what would be the first question that journalists should answer if there is an organization that claims that there is such a thing as structural police violence against blacks? Well, they should check whether or not this is true. So, is there disproportionate police violence against Black Americans in the United States? Yes or no? The very first sentence in the Code of Bordeaux goes as follows: reverence for the truth and for the right of the public to get the truth is the first duty of a journalist. The first duty. This is very clear language, and let's keep this very clear sentence in the back of our minds throughout this video. George Floyd was murdered on the 25th of May 2020. On Friday the 29th of May, the NOS released an article called "A Deeply Rooted Problem: Disproportionate Police Violence Against Black Americans," created by Arjan van der Horst, one of the NOS's news correspondents in the United States. In this article, the NOS claims that, quote, disproportionate violence from the authorities against Afro-Americans is as old as the US itself, and the article contains examples of black individuals being killed by the police. The article refers to a study conducted specifically on the police department of Ferguson, showing that there is a racism problem within this specific police department. The article, however, creates the image that the police in the entire country is intrinsically racist against black people. It refers to certain events in recent US history, such as the murders of the black men Michael Brown and Walter Scott. Okay, so let's engage in the first duty of journalism ourselves, and I will show you an overwhelming amount of data which will make absolutely clear that this article created by Arjan van der Horst is against the Dutch media law. The US population is about 314 billion people. There are approximately 670,439 police officers. This means that police officers are less than 0.22% of the population. Officers come into contact with 17% of the population annually, which equals 53,380,000 contacts. In the year 2015, 990 people were shot by the police. Here is the demographic breakdown of those, quote, victims. 494 were white, which is 50%, 258 were black, which is 26%, 172 were Hispanic, equals 17%, 66 were of another ethnic group, 7%. However, since the black population in 2015 is 13.2% of the total population and the white population is 77% of the total, blacks are indeed killed by the police disproportionately in comparison to whites. However, this simple calculation, which is very popular within the left-wing circles, does not take into consideration anything else than just skin color. By far most people that are killed by the police in general are in fact armed themselves, meaning that the police shot the person out of self-defense. So it is important to note that blacks are very much overrepresented in crime in general. Between the year 1999 and 2015, black Americans committed 10 to 11 times more homicides than white Americans. A study conducted by the FBI also revealed that in 2016, violent crime committed by black Americans was more than double that of white Americans. Then there is the following problem. Despite of making up 13.4% of the total population of the United States in 2018, blacks made up 33% of cop killers. Blacks are by far more likely per 100,000 people to kill police officers than any other group. This means that while 26% of people killed by the police are blacks, blacks killed 33% of those police officers that were killed. So they are more overrepresented in killing policemen than that they are overrepresented in getting killed by the police. Okay, so what now? Well, let's look at the chance of being killed while being unarmed. Sadly, there's no data about unarmed victims available in the study of 2015. However, there are many other databases. According to the Washington Post's Fatal Force database, in 2019, the police shot and killed 55 unarmed suspects in the entire country. This included 25 whites and 14 blacks. So in absolute numbers, there are more unarmed whites killed by the police than unarmed blacks. But let's focus on the blacks. These cases included several situations involving physical fights with police officers, in which the suspect may have tried to grab the police officer's gun. It also involved high-speed car chases and situations that are similar. Moreover, it is not always known if the suspect has a gun. The suspect can, for example, not have a gun in his hand, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't have a gun in his car or somewhere else nearby. A policeman therefore cannot always tell if someone has a gun or perhaps another weapon such as a knife. So it is not hard at all to imagine a situation in which a suspect behaves in such a manner that the police decides to pull the trigger, and that it later turned out that the suspect was actually unarmed. Remember that the US is a country of over 300 million people, where it is not hard at all to obtain a gun. However, let's for a moment forget these circumstances and assume that these 14 black men in 2019 were basically well-behaving men, just walking on the street with an ice cream and then suddenly getting shot. According to the US Census in July of 2019, an estimated 43,984,096 black people exist in the United States. 14 divided by this number is 0.0000318%. So assuming that these 14 men were behaving well, the chance for a black person to get killed by the police for no reason is this percentage. Just to create some perspective, the chance of a person in the US getting hit by lightning is 0.000081818. This means that even if these 14 unarmed black men were just walking on the street peacefully, a black person in the US is more than twice as likely to get hit by lightning than to get killed by a cop. Let this sink in for a while we go back to the Dutch media law, which obligates the Dutch tax-funded state media to engage in high-quality journalism, and then to the article created by Arjan van der Horst. Quote, Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Tammy Rice, Walter Scott, Freddie Gray, Laquan McDonald, Alton Sterling. This week George Floyd was added to the long list of black guys and men who were killed throughout the previous couple of years as a result of disproportionate police violence in the United States. So if you know the statistics, you can already see that this is just propaganda. Does Mr. van der Horst know the list of white boys and men killed as a result of police violence in the US is even longer than that? One example of a white boy getting killed in 2015 by the police is 6-year-old Jeremy Mardis, who was shot while in the car with his father. Both were unarmed and the boy's father had his hands in the air, but the two police officers repeatedly fired at them. The scandal was later revealed by body cam footage. Both police officers were actually black, so these were black officers murdering a white kid for no reason. The NOS did not report the murder of Jeremy Mardis. In August of 2016, 32-year-old Tony Timpa called 911 and told the man on the phone that he suffered from schizophrenia and depression and didn't take his medication. After the policeman arrived, they tried to arrest him, but Timpa resisted. The officers then pushed him against the floor for nearly 14 minutes, and he was dead, similar to George Floyd's death actually. On the body cams it could be heard that the policemen were laughing and mocking Timpa as he died. The NOS did not report the murder of Tony Timpa. Let's go back to the article. Small conflicts and seemingly innocent behaviors can lead to fast escalation of police violence. The 12-year-old Tamir Rice got shot when he was playing outside with a toy gun. Walter Scott got stopped because the brake light of his car was broken. The cop shot him dead in his back after he tried to run away. Philando Castille got killed with multiple bullets after a regular traffic stop. Eric Garner got stopped for selling loose cigarettes on the street. So the writer of the article only mentions a few black victims and tries to create the image that there is some kind of enormous level of police violence going on against black Americans, which we've just seen is simply false. Quote, the distrust towards the police among black Americans is large. They know that the confrontation with the police can lead to death, a deeply rooted fear which is unfamiliar to white Americans. Well, given the fact that the NOS is obligated by law to engage in journalism, it is their task to give the facts. So does this deeply rooted fear really exist, and if so, is it justified? That is the task of journalism, to find out the facts. Based on this article, the average Dutch person will believe that there is indeed some huge problem in the US with police violence against black Americans. And I think that most Dutch people actually believe this about the United States. This article is disinformation and propaganda, and because the tax funded state media is obligated by law to engage in high quality journalism, the NOS is breaking the law here. What is also against the law is discrimination. Article 1 of the Dutch Constitution prohibits discrimination based on race. However, the process of story selection of the Dutch tax-funded state media outlet, so the process of deciding what is newsworthy and what is not, is very much based on the specific skin color of the victim and or the skin color of the perpetrator, despite of the fact that statistically speaking the events they either report or don't report make no sense. 14 unarmed black men got killed by the police in the US in 2019. Well, during the year 2018 and 2019, almost 19,000 white British girls got identified to have been structurally sexually abused by Muslim men in the United Kingdom. Throughout the years, the NOS only created 3 loose articles about some of these events. One in 2014, one in 2015 and one in 2018. The scale of these events does not match the attention paid to it by the NOS at all. As a result, hardly anyone in the Netherlands has ever heard about these type of scandals in the UK, even though the scale of it is extremely shocking. Because let's do the statistics. In the UK there are 9,495,175 white individuals below the age of 18 in the year 2018. This is according to the data from the UK government. Assuming that half of them are female, there are 4,747,588 young white British girls in the UK. 18,702 years makes 9,350 per year. If you divide this number by the total number, you get a percentage of 0.1969%. So assuming that this has been going on for years, the chance for a young British girl below 18 to get structurally sexually abused by Muslim men in the UK is nearly 0.2%. This means that a white British girl under 18 is 6,187 times more likely to be sexually abused by Muslims than an unarmed black in the US is to be killed by the police. Yet the NOS does not call this problem a deeply rooted problem in the UK and doesn't claim that there is some huge epidemic of abuse of young white girls going on in the United Kingdom, even though it can actually be argued that there is. Let this sink in for a while as we continue to the next article created by the NOS. On the 9th of June, the NOS released an article, this time doing an attempt to actually back up their claims about disproportionate police violence against black Americans with statistics. Let's go through it. The numbers. This is how much deadly police violence occurs in the United States. By Helene de Haans. Quote, "Hands up, don't shoot" is one of the many slogans that protesters in the United States are shouting as a result of the death of George Floyd. The slogan is a complaint against the ease with which police officers draw their weapons or apply other deadly violence during or after an arrest. arrest. And the first paragraph immediately contains a lie. No American policemen, generally speaking, do not draw their weapon with ease during or after an arrest. Quote, even though on a federal level in the United States no statistics are kept about deadly police violence, it is clear that it occurs more often than in other developed countries, and that black Americans are hit disproportionately by it. So here are 3 claims, of which one half truth, one truth and one lie. No, the FBI indeed does not count cases of so-called police violence. This information indeed lacks from their data, which is indeed problematic. However, there is data available, such as the database from the Washington Post and from Statistica, and I recommend everybody to just look at this yourself. Yes, it is true that it occurs more often than in other developed countries. However, that doesn't mean that the cause of it is the police itself. And no, as already shown, black Americans are not hit disproportionately by it, if you take into consideration the statistics on crime in general. It is interesting how the NOS keeps repeating this falsehood over and over again. Quote, a lot of deadly violence by cops. One of these organizations is mapping police violence. Researchers have been combining data from existing databases with their own research into obituary notices, police reports and social media. They estimate to have caught more than 90% of police violence in the United States during the last couple of years. If you click on the link, you will end up on some quite weird website, which looks like this. It shows a time map on which you can see all the cases of so-called police violence, which is supposed to shock people or something. You can then download their database in Excel format. You can then scroll down the Excel sheet and see for yourself that by far most of these cases were armed. Most of them being armed with a gun, but you can also see a lot of cases that were armed with a knife, with a vehicle. Now, if by far most people were armed, then what is the point of showing this time map with above it the amount of people killed in 2020? This amount of people killed could also have been the amount of policemen killed by violent criminals. Would that have been better? The article of the NOS does not answer this question. If you scroll down, you will see, quote, blacks 3 times more likely to be killed by police than white people, which doesn't mean anything in itself if you don't also take into consideration the broader context. And next to it you will see that blacks are 1.3 times more likely to be killed unarmed compared to whites, while not asking important questions such as, do the police actually know that these people are unarmed? Anyway, Helene de Haas continues her article mentioning some of the amounts, and she does this in a way that is kinda weird. Quote, 1098 Americans died as a result of police violence, as if police violence is something that just randomly happens to a person. So this many people died because of cancer, this many people died because of heart attacks, this many people died because of diabetes, and this many people died because of police violence. De Haas then mentions Action Group Control Alt Delete, which is a ridiculous far-left organization trying to implement the narrative of this system of racist police violence on the Netherlands, which makes no sense at all. The article then shows this picture, which is supposed to shock people, while it doesn't mean anything, because it doesn't take into consideration the reality of black overrepresentation in crime. Also, this picture includes cases of armed criminals being shot by the police, whom otherwise might have killed a cop. Quote, whether or not racism is the main cause of this overrepresentation of black Americans in the data, scientifically speaking, is hard to determine, say researchers. This is another harsh lie, because it is well known that black Americans are vastly overrepresented in crime, committing 10 to 11 times more murders than white Americans, and violent crime being more than double that of white Americans. And yes, this data is kept on the federal level and by many other organizations. Why doesn't the writer include this important information in the article? This is basically lying by omission, leaving out certain important information. So the writer of the article acts as if she is proving the narrative of disproportionate police violence in the US and chooses to not use the data from the Washington Post or from Statistica, but instead refers to the data from some weird website. In addition, she ignores other relevant data, such as the data on black crime versus white crime, murdering policemen and so on. However, let's dig into the data from this website. 6.6 blacks per 1 million are killed as a result of, quote, police violence. According to the US Census in July of 2019, an estimated 43,984,096 6 black people exist in the United States. 290 black people in total got killed by the police. 17% was unarmed, which leads to 50 black Americans. 50 divided by the total number multiplied by 100% is 0.00011367745. So assuming that these 50 black Americans were just walking on the street with an ice cream, which they probably weren't, and just got killed by the police for no reason, the chance of a black American getting killed by the police is 0.00011367745%. If you do the same calculation for whites, you get a percentage of 0.00022849116%. So according to this data, blacks are 1.4 times more likely to get killed by the police than to get hit by lightning. And white British girls below 18 are 1,732 times more likely to be sexually abused by Muslims than an unarmed black in the US is to be killed by the police, assuming all 50 behaved well. So even when using the data from this strange website, the chance of getting killed by the police while unarmed is still in the same realm of likability as the chance of getting hit by lightning. So the whole narrative created by the NOS of black people having to fear the police every time they go outside is still complete nonsense. So no, these statistics still are not anywhere near something that would justify all of these ridiculous accusations of systemic police violence and deeply rooted structural police violence against black Americans. What these Dutch tax-funded journalists consistently do is lying by omission. They leave out certain important information and don't tell the entire story. They lie again and again, and as a result, people in the Netherlands now have an incorrect image about what is going on in the United States. We are living in a time when there is a club with the name EU versus Disinfo, which is supposed to protect the peoples of Europe against so-called disinformation. Apparently there are troll factories in Russia where people are busy all day posting misleading posts on Twitter and all of that. According to certain politicians in the Netherlands, these Russian trolls are especially focused on our little country. Now by far most Dutch people have an incorrect image about what is going on in the United States. They think that Trump is the embodiment of evil. They think that Trump mocked a disabled reporter. Surprise, surprise, he did not. They think there is a deeply rooted problem of police violence against black people in the United States. And they think that the Democrats are very good and decent people who are fighting for a better society. And is this incorrect image the result of some Russian troll factory? No, it is a result of a Dutch tax-funded troll factory called the NOS. No single Russian troll can even dream of spreading disinformation as effectively as the chief editor of the NOS does, who makes an astounding 200,000 euro a year while structurally breaking the law. No Russian troll can do this. It is a mystery why the Dutch tolerate this. You can literally find any first-year student of mathematics and pay him 100 euro to spend one day looking at all of these statistics, and you can have a more accurate image of the reality in the United States than what you'll get from watching the NOS for 10 years. Thanks for watching this rather long video. I wish you a nice day.